Welcome to your week in review here on 1FM 98.9 for the period September 22nd through 27th. Making the news last week, Senior GIS Officer shares how Geographic Information Systems help St. Kitts and Nevis mitigate vulnerabilities in disaster response.
St. Kitts and Nevis' Director of Health Institutions makes a plea for more pharmacists on World Pharmacy Day.
St. Kitts Nevis Climate Minister takes on Climate Week engagements in New York.
Refurbishment of health centers critical to St. Kitts and Nevis' broader strategic health plan. The much-anticipated Sugar Mass Junior Carnival Parade set to make a grand return in 2025.
Eastern Caribbean Securities Exchange to host a third annual Regional Schools Investment Competition.
Anguilla in ongoing talks with St. Kitts Nevis officials in quest to tackle violent crime. The Nevis Island Administration Cabinet reviews submissions for the Alexandra Hospital expansion.
Now the details. As Caribbean nations face intensifying climate challenges, understanding and mitigating vulnerabilities is paramount. For small island developing states, SIDS, Geographic Information Systems, GIS, offer a transformative approach to identifying these critical areas, moving beyond traditional assessments to provide dynamic data-driven insights. Josiah Burkett, Senior GIS Officer in the Department of Planning, Ministry of Sustainable Development, highlights the pivotal role of GIS in this endeavor.
My job entails using data and technology to help decision makers make informed decisions. So what that means is we utilize Geographic Information Systems, or GIS, which is essentially mapping tools to help collect, analyze, visualize, and help decision makers see vulnerability and disasters in context to the environment. So as it relates to working with NEMA and what we do, we help NEMA visualize risk as well as assets. Critical infrastructure assets such as shelters, such as vulnerable areas and communities, and other important information as it relates to storm surge, flooding, hurricanes, etc. How we do that is we train as well as assist in mapping these assets. We go into the field with drones, with GPS devices, with tablets, and we capture data. We then use that data on our GIS tools to visualize and create maps, and then the decision makers such as the head of NEMA or even the NEMA district reps can visualize the information and plan for either disaster response or mitigation efforts.
The Senior GIS Officer shared some of the challenges related to these efforts.
Some of the challenges include getting accurate and up-to-date information. Data is always changing as time progresses, whether it's population information or changes in community infrastructure. Persons are building all the time, or sometimes a building would become no longer in use. So we always need to have up-to-date information, and that's a challenge when you have limited staff. So that's another challenge, or resources such as the software and hardware. Those are primarily the main challenges, but we find ways to overcome them nonetheless. It just takes more time to update the information based on the limitations we have.
Smart maps integrate diverse data layers, from population density to intricate weather patterns, to paint a comprehensive picture of vulnerability. This sophisticated layering enables the precise identification of communities and infrastructure most vulnerable to climate impacts. It also emphasizes the invaluable contribution of local knowledge in strengthening these analytical tools.
So a vulnerable area is considered an area that is most likely to be harmed if a natural event such as a storm, flooding, hurricane, landslide was to occur, and it would have a more devastating impact than usual. So vulnerability means the likelihood of an area or a person to be impacted by a natural or human event such as a storm, a hurricane, flooding, or even pollution.
According to Burkett, there is a role for citizens to play in recognizing vulnerability in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
The citizens know their communities better than anyone else. So when a vulnerable event occurs, or when your area is experiencing some of these natural or human-made events, we want you to document it. We want you to communicate it, because you are the ones being impacted, and the way you communicate that would help us now better prepare to help mitigate that vulnerability. So what persons can look for to determine if their area or their community is vulnerable or not would include low-lying areas, flat areas, especially those close to the coast or close to guts. That's more likely prone to flooding. So paying attention during heavy rainfalls, especially when storms are passing, if there's flooding occurring, you are in a vulnerable area. You can also look for land slippage or mass movement of soil. If there is heavy rainfall or an event such as an earthquake, you are vulnerable to landslides or land slippage. And also storm surge. If you live on the coast and you realize that the water is coming closer and closer to where you live, you are exposed to storm surge and you are in a vulnerable area. So those are some of the things that persons can look at in their community to identify if it's vulnerable or not.
This practical application underscores how technology translates complex data into actionable strategies, enabling authorities and residents alike to enhance their preparedness and response capabilities.
The importance of historical knowledge, if you're new to an area, would help you prepare in the event that that vulnerability or that hazard was to occur again. So for example, if you're new to a community and you are aware that this community is prone to flooding, when the rainy season comes, you prepare for that. You ensure that your house is prepared, your yard is prepared, the drains are cleared, so that you are least likely to be heavily impacted by that. Sometimes you can't avoid certain things, but the more you prepare, the less you're impacted. If someone wanted to report a vulnerable area or a vulnerability incident in their area, what we would recommend is you document it. We believe citizens are also part of data collection, and if there is something happening in your area, such as flooding, you should take pictures, you should contact your NEMA district rep or NEMA themselves, document what happened, who was affected, if there was some sort of major incident that's out of the norm, and then we can add that to our data sets to help plan to prevent this from happening again.
Burkett explained GIS facilitates crucial decision-making using a tsunami vulnerability map as a compelling case study.
So there is a vulnerability map for the Federation. Again, based on the challenges I identified, it isn't up to date based on some gaps, but it is useful in at least understanding which areas are vulnerable to what and how we can plan for future incidents. The Port Zante area shows if a tsunami wave of 100 feet was to hit the island, all the communities that would be impacted. As you can see, if you're looking at the Port Zante area, a lot of the communities along the coast, including Irish Town all the way to the ponds area, will be impacted. Now, this helps decision makers quantify how many persons may be impacted and also inform citizens of are you in that zone, that impacted zone, and where you should go so that you can be safe. So it's another example of how data is important to communicate the risk of vulnerability of an area and how persons can plan and prepare for such incidents.
Geographic Information Systems, GIS, empowers communities not only to recognize but also to actively participate in pinpointing the risks that threaten their resilience.
Dr. Jensen Morton, the Director of Health Institutions, underscored the critical role pharmacists play in the delivery of healthcare as the Federation joined the global observance of World Pharmacy Day, September 25, 2025.
The pharmacists play an integral role in the overall health system and health scheme. They are the ones that deal with the distribution and the dispensation of life-saving medication to our citizens. So they not only are responsible for that, but they're also responsible for the background work that is associated with the pharmacology, which includes the stock taking, checking of the expiration of all of our medications, for the listing of what needs to be ordered in terms of what medications are absolutely needed in the Federation. They also do their work with regards to the background research for the efficacy of the medications, especially if the medication is a new one or if the medication is one which is from a new source or a new supplier. And it's not just what people see before them. There are other aspects of the medication, such as the mixing of medication for oncology patients and many other background things that are happening in the field of pharmacology.
In an exclusive interview with WINN FM, Dr. Morton expressed concern over the shortage of pharmacists from St. Kitts and Nevis. He called on nationals interested in health-related careers to consider studying pharmacology, highlighting that the profession offers rewarding opportunities and is an important service to the community.
So right now in the Federation, we don't have as many local pharmacists as we would absolutely like. Currently in the government system, we only have one individual that has a bachelor's in pharmacy that is employed by us. And all of the other pharmacists that we have are persons that we're very grateful for that have immigrated to our shores. Um, Even though we have been able to meet our pharmacology demands with regards to the human resources, it really would be appreciated if more persons in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis would think about pursuing getting their bachelor's degree in pharmacy and coming home to work in our local health system. It's a promising field that can prove to be very rewarding, and it's one which is absolutely needed. Now, on top of this, we also have pharmacy technicians. These are the persons that work in the pharmacies and that help the pharmacists to do the overall work involved in pharmacy. We do have some pharmacy techs that are certified pharmacy techs in our system, and we will encourage persons, if you want to take a first step, that is something that can be explored.
To address the shortage of homegrown pharmacists, Dr. Morton mentioned the possibility of the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College introducing a certificate program in pharmacology. The program aims to provide aspiring pharmacists with a strong academic foundation and increase the number of trained professionals in the field.
There are plans to offer a certified pharmacy technician course at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College in the near future. And if that becomes a reality, again, I would like to encourage persons in the Federation that are interested in this field to pursue getting this certification.
Meanwhile, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis spends approximately $17 million annually for the procurement of medicine and medical supplies. The medications are procured through the Organization of the Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, pool system.
The relationship between the government-run pharmacies and the private-run pharmacies is actually pretty healthy. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis, every year, we spend to the tune of approximately $17 million on medication and medical supplies for the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, although that is a large amount, we still are unable to meet absolutely all of our medical demands that our citizens have. And to plug those gaps, we have a very good relationship with the private pharmacies. It's not all of the medication types that we can have in our system. Sometimes different companies, they can make different formulations of the same medication. And some of these different formulations, they tend to have, different benefits, sometimes decreased side effects, etc. In the government system, we get our medication from the OECS procurement pool system, which is the same procurement pool system that the governments of the other OECS territories use. It's in an attempt to decrease the overall cost of the medication.
The Director of Health Institutions commended the strong partnership between the government-operated and private-run pharmacies, which he said has been instrumental in maintaining reliable and consistent access to essential medications. He explained that their collaboration has been especially important in navigating supply chain challenges.
On different occasions, because of the reality of things, and also sometimes because of some issues because of the procurement pool system, even though usually it's not really the fault of the system itself. When we're trying to get medications ordered, all of the OECS territories have to basically pay the bill for the medication that's needed. And if there's a delay in any of the territories, it can result in a delay in the shipment of the medication for all of the territories. When something like that happens, we need, in some instances, the private pharmacies to have some of these medications to help us until the stocks can get replenished from the procurement pool system. So we have a good relationship with our private pharmacies. They have a good relationship with us. And between the two of us, we try to ensure that the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis are provided with all of their medication needs.
The Director of Health Institutions extended World Pharmacy Day greetings to all the individuals working in the field of pharmacology and expressed hope that in the near future that pharmaceutical services in the Federation will be strengthened.
The United Nations Climate Week in New York is currently underway, taking place from September 21st to 28, 2025, under the auspices of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The event coincides with the United Nations General Assembly, bringing together business leaders, government officials, and civil society to accelerate the transition to a clean and fair future. The 2025 theme is Power On. Minister of Sustainable Development, Environment, Climate Action and Constituency Empowerment of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honourable Dr. Joelle Clark, reflected on her time at Climate Week in a post on social media. Minister Clark shared that at the onset of the week's activities, there was a heavy focus on women's empowerment. Dr. Clark delivered a statement on behalf of the Caribbean community CARICOM at the United Nations High Level on Women in commemoration of the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, and reaffirmed the region's commitment to ensuring the safety, protection, and promotion of the rights and freedoms of women and girls on Caribbean islands and across the world.
In the Caribbean community, we strive for political culture that prioritizes women in decision-making and leadership, evidenced by our 3 democratically elected female heads of government who we commend and celebrate, but we acknowledge that we still have far to go. Noting this, last Friday, St. Kitts and Nevis, through our co-leadership with Ireland, facilitated the passage of the resolution on the revitalization on the Commission of the Status of Women, a renewed commitment to women and girls. Translating intention into action can only be sustained with legislative and policy-backed reformations. As such, our region remains steadfast in the cultivation of gender-responsive policies and legislation and the review of outdated laws that perpetuate discrimination. Excellencies, we must recognize that equality has to be budgeted for and planned for, especially for SIDS with limited fiscal space. CARICOM calls for increased accessible international financing that incorporates the needs of women, for gender-responsive climate action that acknowledges the pivotal role of women and girls in leading the charge against climate change. And we emphasize the need for a paradigm shift in our educational sectors and digital systems in alignment with the needs of women and girls. CARICOM recommits its policy towards gender empowerment, resourcing through gender-sensitive climate financing, and accelerating the full force of political will. Another 30 years should not greet us speaking of potential and possibilities. Let us make good on our shared ambition to leave no one behind.
Minister Clark also met with other leaders in multilateral and bilateral engagements to discuss matters of importance to the Federation and those that benefit the Sustainable Island State Agenda. Minister Clark sat with His Excellency Rafael Fortia, Secretary of the Environment and Natural Resources of the Philippines, to discuss loss and damages and the potential avenues of partnership between the countries, especially in the healthcare and renewable energy sectors. Her Excellency Vania Gava, Deputy Minister of Environment and Energy Security of Italy, to reinvigorate the Federation's commitment to 2 key outstanding projects existing sponsored by Italy and exploring the possibility of deepened technical exchange pathways between both countries. Engagements related to sustainability remain important as geopolitics continue to shift, influencing where funding is allocated. While work continues in the fight against the negative impacts of climate change, it is apparent that since the United States President Donald Trump took office in January 2025, his administration has taken actions perceived as undermining climate action and finance, which includes rollback of environmental policies, climate finance cuts, withdrawal from international agreements, namely the Paris Agreement, frozen permits for offshore wind projects, eliminated incentives for clean energy, and halted approvals for wind farms. Funding and staff at agencies like the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration have been cut, and further fossil fuel exploration continues. While some may argue that the U.S. cutting back on climate commitments does not affect the obligations of other countries, in the June 2025 summit in The Hague, NATO members agreed to a significant increase in defense spending. The 32 NATO members, including Canada, France, Italy, the United Kingdom, Germany, and Spain, among others, pledged to invest 5% of their gross domestic product annually by 2035. That pledge represents more than double the previous target of 2%, which a majority of members had already met by 2024. Larger countries, including NATO members, have continually failed to meet their climate commitments due to increased military spending and a reliance on fossil fuels. With a diversion of funds, increased emissions from military activities, and the undermining of international cooperations, it could create a trade-off where investments in military security come at the expense of long-term climate stability. Small island developing states SIDS continue to be at the forefront of the climate fight, despite making a negligible contribution to the factors that have contributed to the worsening climate crisis. The 2025 United Nations Climate Change Conference, the 30th Conference of Parties, COP30, is scheduled to take place from November 10th to 21st in Brazil. Again, world leaders, scientists, advocates, lobbyists, and civil society from around the world are coming together to accelerate climate action under the framework of the Paris Agreement. Whether it will be a conference of more pledges and less action is left to be seen.
The Health Center in Charlestown and Nevis remains at its temporary location as renovations at the original location are pending. The Health Center was relocated to ensure continued service delivery while renovation plans are being finalized. Minister of Health in Nevis, Senator Janelle Nisbet, explained to a Government at Work audience on September 18 that the ministry continues to outfit the temporary location with the necessary resources and equipment to maintain the quality of care that the people are accustomed to.
As we know, the Charlestown Health Center would have been relocated to the wards building. From conversations with individuals who utilize the center as well as the staff at the center, it is an effective space. They're able to have a nice flow of care. The individuals come in, wait, they have the examinations room, etc. It's a safe, clean, and effective environment. So right now we're just focused on keeping that up to date while we plan for a new facility in Charlestown. But we always ensure that you're not disadvantaged while we work towards another goal. So all the services are accessible. We've recently added an examination table there at that center. 2 dental chair units were recently added in the past 2 years at that dental unit that's connected to that center as well.
Nisbet informed the public that services relating to maternal health, vaccinations, doctor visits, among other services, remain fully operational.
We continue to provide services such as vaccinations, pre-postnatal care to women and children, and a host of other services including free pap smear for women, which we know is essential for their health, and various doctor days across the different health centers. So all the centers are being maintained over time, so there's no big works to be done at any of the centers in particular. We have a maintenance team that continuously goes around and checks, upgrades what we need to upgrade.
Additionally, the Gingerland Health Center was relocated to the Hard Times Community Center, where its original site is being utilized as a carpenter's workshop. Meanwhile, Dr. Jensen Morton, in an exclusive interview with WINN FM, confirmed that in St. Kitts, refurbishment of health centers forms part of a broader national strategic plan for health, taking into account the aesthetics of the facilities, improving service delivery, and meeting the growing demands of the population.
We do have a national strategic plan for health, which deals with all aspects of health. We are looking at the health centers. We are ensuring that each of the health centers will get the refurbishment that it needs, such that it's able to best serve the customers both refurbishment on the outside as well as the inside. The immediate focus is to make sure that the inside part is properly furbished, as well as the staffing for the health centers is adequate. And then after that, that's when we look at the external aspect of the aesthetics of the health centers. But no, it's not something that's neglected.
A polyclinic to serve the St. Peter's community was announced by Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew in 2024. He informed that the institution will provide blood tests, x-rays, outpatient care, and other specialized services. He also highlighted plans to utilize the existing Joseph and France General Hospital as a large polyclinic when the planned new state-of-the-art The Junior Carnival Parade is set to make a vibrant comeback in 2025 on the backdrop of the theme Sweet to the Core, Sugar Mass 54. To build excitement for the Junior Carnival Parade, the St. Kitts and Nevis National Carnival Committee launched a promotional tour across primary schools in St. Kitts. Clement Monarco-Garo, director of St. Kitts and Nevis National Carnival, speaking on WINN FM's Island Tea, shared the children's feedback from the tour.
Last week, yes, we had an exciting time. It was tiring, but very exciting. We visited 16 public primary schools in St. Kitts, 8 on Monday the 16th, and another 8 on Wednesday the 17th. And we, of course, were promoting the Junior Carnival Parade, which is scheduled to be held on the 27th of December this year, which is the normal Saturday, the last Saturday in December, when it's usually held. We got our prototypes, so we were able to showcase the actual costumes themselves.
The Junior Carnival Parade will spotlight several of the Federation's historical sites and cultural landmarks. Besides giving the children an opportunity to have fun and showcase their talents, they will be learning about their heritage.
This year we're depicting national treasures, and we're featuring sites and important historical venues in both St. Kitts and Nevis. So look out for Brimstone Hill, Independence Square, Berkeley Memorial, aka the Circus Clock, the Clowns, the Masquerade, and then we head over to Nevis, where we feature the Botanical Gardens, Hot Springs, and the Nevis Bathhouse.
In an effort to ensure that the Junior Parade is accessible to as many children as possible, the director of Carnival said costumes would be provided free of cost to the participants. He added that registration forms were distributed directly to schools to allow parents to register their children.
And I want to say thanks to Mr. Francil Morris, CEO of Education, who ensured that everything was set perfectly for the tour. We definitely appreciate their assistance in ensuring that, the tour went off in a way that it did. And I'm telling you, the students are all excited, they're hyped, and they're ready to go. And don't forget, for the parents listening, these costumes are all free to the kids. And we'll soon have more information as it relates to registration. Registration forms were left at the schools, along with a booklet with the pictures of all the prototypes, so you can choose which costume your kid wants to wear. And as I said, it's absolutely free. But we'll have more information coming soon, where you can register. If you're not if you're not registered at your school, there'll be other options as well that we'll utilize to register.
Shannon Hawley, chairperson of St. Kitts and Nevis National Carnival, expressed that in her committee's assessment of the 2024 hosting, bringing back the Junior Carnival Parade in 2025 was a priority. The event, scheduled for December 27, will be the responsibility of the Department of Youth to ensure its successful execution.
I think this year Junior Carnival definitely is coming back with a bang, and it was the intention of the committee from January. When we did our analysis of Sugar Mass 53, we at that point determined that it was so important to bring back Junior Carnival, bring back the energy associated with Junior Carnival and the tradition of Junior Carnival. So again, we have done the school tours, and we will be teaming up with the Department of Youth, who will be responsible for the execution of the actual Junior Carnival parade on the 27th, which is the day after Juve. So we're going straight from Juve into Junior Carnival. It is a busy weekend, a busy month, I should
Exactly.
say, for Sugar Mass 54.
The Carnival officials anticipate that the 2025 Junior Carnival Parade will be the most memorable one yet.
During a recent episode of ECCP Connect's Business Development Executive for the Eastern Caribbean Securities Exchange Limited, Yuluka Armani Brown shared details of the Eastern Caribbean Securities Exchange third annual Regional Schools Investment Competition. The competition is an initiative targeting the young people in the ECCU, equipping them with the skills, confidence, and knowledge to make sound financial decisions for the future. Armani Brown expressed the significance of the program.
The Eastern Caribbean Securities Exchange spearheaded an initiative in collaboration with its partners, the Eastern Caribbean Securities Regulatory Commission, as well as the 6 licensed member brokers, to essentially bring about this initiative, because we recognized that we needed to do more in terms of education, especially targeting young people. There are quite a lot of students we felt are they're not exposed to information about investment fundamentals, and they don't know much about the regional market that we operate. So we wanted to do more in terms of that, and so this idea was born and this initiative was born to do that. We've seen a lot more excitement in terms of the students. They are obviously very interested in investing and learning how to build wealth. And so we've seen a lot more interest in terms of both students and teachers even reaching out to us to learn more about how they can get involved in investing. So that is one of the aims that we had. And the students are also generally more inspired and in terms of looking at career opportunities in the field of investing.
The students can expect a deeper understanding of investment and securities as a part of the initiative.
First, we provide them as a precursor to the competition. There's an investment education webinar, and so the students have to participate in that just to get general information about securities, the difference between investing and saving, the types of financial security products in the market, and of course to learn more about how our market operates across the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. So they get that information, and then of course they get first-hand experience in actually thinking about how do I analyze whether or not I should invest in this security versus another security. So they get hands-on experience in terms of the world of investing, trading, what goes behind the decision, strategy making in terms of investing. In terms of what they're required to do, so they meet as a group in their schools, and they would analyze, they would get information related to the company in terms of their financials. We also issue market news on a daily basis. So they would look at these things to analyze, the company itself, the environment, what is the market saying, and then they determine how they'd like to purchase or sell particular securities. They generally come up with some sort of strategic approach in the beginning, so that's something that they do at their first meeting. So once the approach is aligned in terms of investing in particular securities, but aligned with the strategy, then that's something that they would do, and they would then put through their purchase or sales order to the broker-dealer to place the trade.
The business development executive explained the eligibility and logistics of the competition, including the prizes to be won.
In terms of eligible participants, we target 3rd and 5th form students throughout the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. The one group per school, and we have about 4 to 6 students per group. So minimum 4 students, maximum 6 students per group. So 3rd to 4th form students as well as first year college students. And we've already written to the Ministries of Education. This is something that the Ministry of Education have endorsed. And so we've notified them. The competition, the registration is actually open now. And so the schools, the Ministry of Education has been assisting us in circulating the information to the various schools. And those interested could then there's an online registration on the ECSC website. That's ecsconline.com, where it has the information page, it has the link to register, etc. So anything about the information you can find on that page. And we encourage persons to start registering now. The deadline is 3rd of October.
And what's in store for the winners?
Oh, so some great things are in store. I just want to mention too, because this is our 3rd year, This year is a little different. The first 2 years, the format of the competition, it was run in 2 phases, an intra-country phase and a regional phase. In this time around, we decided to just have the regional phase because both Anguilla and Montserrat was a little disadvantaged because they don't have one secondary school. So we decided all schools will compete across the region to vie for regional champion. We've also increased the prize, so the school will receive $6,500. The students will receive, each of the students will receive $540 investment, worth of investment, so they could determine whether they'd like to use that to invest on any of the securities listed on the Securities Exchange. We also have 2 mutual funds that are licensed to operate in our market, so they can also choose to invest in a mutual fund as well. So that's to get them started. And of course, they have goodie bags, they have certificates that they will receive, as well as a rotational trophy. We've kind of increased the price for the runner-up, given that we're not having the country phase. And so the runner-up the school will also receive cash prize of $3,000. The students will receive an investment prize of $270. And I forgot to mention in both cases, the regional champion, as well as for the runner-up, the teachers will also receive a waiver of broker fees for their first investment. So we're obviously trying to encourage persons to get into investing, because even though saving and budgeting are very important, but saving is more preservation of wealth. Investing is, of course, building and creating wealth so that you could reach your financial goals faster.
The competition on a regional scale focuses on opportunities for investment in the region to build the ECCU's stock market as a viable means of generating wealth in the region.
Well, first of all, the market is a regional market. It's licensed to operate in throughout the ECCU, and all of us market players, the ECSC, the commission who regulates the entire market, and of course the broker dealers. And I just want to mention the broker dealers here. So the 6 licensed broker dealers are First Citizens Investment Services, Bank of St. Lucia Limited, Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank, and Bank of Nevis Limited. So all of us, we're licensed to operate in this region. So it's just appropriate that we extend this competition to all of the students across the region, because that's who we target in terms of the populace. That's who we're trying to develop and ensure that they have the education and tools that they need to take advantage in investing.
Harmony Brown says the hope is that the competition will inspire the youth to learn more about investing and to get involved in investment careers, such as becoming financial advisors, broker-dealers, or entrepreneurs who list on the exchange.
So we just hope to inspire them, and also we hope that they also share this information with the teachers and their parents and inspire everybody to learn more about investing. We really need, we have generally a buy and hold and conservative culture, and so it really takes a change in culture to realize that persons, you don't have to have a lot of money to start small in terms of investing and to make your money work for you, essentially. Yes. So we're hoping that they will be the future investors. Mm-hmm. Yes, and not just investors, but also they will have the companies that will then list on the exchange, because obviously the exchange is also important for companies to raise capital. And so overall, this will be down to the benefit of the entire region.
Interested individuals are encouraged to visit the Eastern Caribbean Securities Exchange website at ecsceonline.com for more information.
Mr. Hans Richards, Research and Data Analysis Officer at the Citizen Security Secretariat, St. Kitts and Nevis, had a virtual engagement with the Governor of Anguilla, Her Excellency Julia Crouch, and Community Planner Hyacinth Bradley in September 2025. With concerns mounting over the social and economic impact of criminal activity in Anguilla, the island's government turned to St. Kitts and Nevis to help find solutions beyond traditional law enforcement methods. The virtual meeting between Mr. Richards and the Anguilla officials followed a visit to St. Kitts by an Anguillian delegation in July 2025 as part of the British Overseas Territories' ongoing efforts to develop innovative strategies to tackle the rise in crime and violence. During the discussions, the parties explored how violent crimes can be addressed from a public health perspective, emphasizing prevention and early intervention and community-based initiatives aimed at reducing risk factors such as unemployment, substance abuse, and youth disenfranchisement. The importance of data collection, education, mental health, expanded drug counseling, and regional intelligence sharing was identified as tools critical to addressing the root causes of violent behavior. Meanwhile, Shelia Rogers-Webster, Minister of Education and Social Development, welcomed the shift in the perception of crime prevention, commending St. Kitts and Nevis for having a unified approach in shaping policies and programs to tackle crime and violence.
When we were in St. Kitts, and obviously St. Kitts is very different to Anguilla, in a number of ways, and culturally they're an independent country. But I think there are still shared lessons in all of our regional territories. And they have implemented particular systems and programs in their area. And when we met with a number of the point persons in the different departments and ministries that work with the project, the thing that stood out the most to us, and we all talked about it after, was the fact that everyone was so aligned in relation to the policy direction. This is what we were trying to achieve. This was the strategy to achieve it. And this is what we have achieved thus far. There was no one in the room that, was cynical about it. Everybody was so aligned on the same page in terms of what they were trying to do. It was admirable to see that.
Rogers-Webster explained that St. Kitts and Nevis officials showed no signs of political allegiance or partisan influence in their approach to tackling crime. Instead, the officials demonstrated a shared commitment to achieving their goal.
I don't know where those persons' political allegiance lied, because there was no conversation about politics. The conversation was in relation to the strategy that they were using to address violence in their country. And it was nice to be able to hear these people talk so positively about their programs, their policy directions, and how they go above and beyond to achieve the specific results that they achieve. Irrespective of where you sit politically, they have seen some level of success significantly. They've had a significant drop in murders over the last year. There are a number of statistical data that they can show as successes, right? But again, it was nice to see everyone sort of aligned on the policy direction.
The Citizen Security Secretariat St. Kitts and Nevis, under the leadership of Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew, has pinned their focus on how public health frameworks can alter the view of crime prevention. Hans Richards, in particular, has been leading the charge in ensuring that meetings and technical exchanges are held so that sustainable solutions to crime and violence can be pursued locally and regionally. The minister responsible for health on the island of Nevis, Janelle Nisbet, provided an update on the long-stalled hospital expansion project, specifically the development of a new diagnostic wing at the Alexandra Hospital. During the September 18, 2025 edition of Government at Work with Keith Disson at Scarborough, Nisbet shared that the government received 3 submissions from technical partners from the Republic of China, Taiwan, outlining possible ways of moving the project forward. She said discussions are ongoing with the cabinet to review the submissions.
We did engage our Taiwanese technical partners to provide some feedback and potential way forward. At this point, we've gotten 3 submissions from them of 3 different alternatives of how to bring this project to fruition. So we're discussing those at a cabinet level and selecting the best way forward for Nevis. At this time, we are still hopeful for a 2025 restart date of that project. So once that analysis is over and we identify the finances, we will continue forth with that service.
The diagnostic wing is earmarked as a critical addition to the island's healthcare infrastructure, yet for several years, the project has been delayed, leaving some citizens disturbed and frustrated. According to the minister, despite the delay, the hospital is fully functional and critical services, including mammography and computed tomography CT scans, continue to be provided at the hospital.
At this time, I want to, of course, reiterate the fact that this new wing will host areas such as physiotherapy, the lab, the pharmacy, radiology, and these are all services that you still have access to right now at the Alexandra Hospital. In fact, over the years, they have improved tremendously at our current facility. We used to have to travel over to St. Kitts to a private facility to get CT scan. Right now, that's accessible right there at the Alexandra Hospital. We have our mammogram machine there in radiology, and thus far, we've been able to give at least approximately 500 women free access to that machine. There is a cost on everyday basis. However, we've done a number of promotions. In the first instance, when we implemented that machine, installed it, we offered free mammograms for 6 months, just so that everybody had the ability to be able to get tested, know their health status.
The minister added that other services will be relocated to the new wing after its completion, explaining that it would improve the flow of operations at the hospital.
This expansion is designed to improve the flow. So some services will be relocated there, but at current, we still have those services. And in addition to those, you'll have areas such as more wards, some private wards, conference rooms, nursing and doctors areas, and additional operation theater. But right now, you still have your full access to your slate of medical services.
Nisbet on September 18 did not give an official timeline as to when work will resume, but several anxious citizens and residents wait with concern for the project's restart.
You were listening to the Week in Review here on WINN FM 98.9. Thank you for listening and have a productive week.